Hi everyone, it's Guillaume from Startup Basecamp. Welcome to the Tech for Climate podcast. During the show, you will have the opportunity to meet the best climate tech founders, investors, and experts from both Silicon Valley and around the globe. They will share with you their stories and personal journeys into this growing and exciting industry, giving you some insight into the ecosystems that help you to take part in the fight against climate change and benefit from the opportunities it can represent. The podcast is divided in two small interviews. So in the first part, you will get to know our speakers, their perspectives on the climate crisis and how climate tech is changing the game. The second part of the discussion will be for members of our community who will learn the speakers' secret sauce on how to and share with you their unique expertise on topics such as fundraising, management, strategy, and so on, to help you to become a better leader in your field. So before we start, I would like to quickly share what we are doing at Startup Basecamp to support climate tech founders in accessing resources and gaining visibility with investors they seek. Our initiatives include a membership-based community platform offering access to a dedicated Slack group with a growing number of founders, experts, and investors from around the world, and a series of exclusive content such as interviews, weekly job listings, events, and our quarterly online pitch night opportunity. But more than a place where you can learn, exchange, and grow, we are building a matchmaking service to facilitate connections between our members and top investors and experts in the field. And soon, alongside with other top investors, we will be launching a small fund to co-invest in the growth and acceleration of our members. Finally, all of this is possible because of your support and donations. We are a small self-funded team and we want you to be part of this collective movement against climate change. So please share one episode with a friend and subscribe to the channels. As an added bonus, we will plant a tree for each of our subscribers each time we reach 1,000 new fans or donors. Do not hesitate to connect with me via social media or email guillaume@startupbasecamp. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope to get in touch with you soon. And now, let's go for the show. Hi everyone, during this new episode of Founder Series, we are sitting down with Anthony Baker, founder and CEO at SatelliteVu. Since 2016, this satellite startup, based out of London, has been building the next generation of Earth observation infrared sensors that monitor the temperature of any structure on the planet in near real time. The company will be using this data to determine valuable insights into economic activity, energy efficiency, and carbon footprints that will enable better business decisions. I was excited to speak with Anthony, a space geek with more than 20 years in the global aerospace industry, who dropped his comfortable paycheck to build a satellite company from scratch that helps make better decisions for fighting climate change. In this episode, we'll learn more about his journey and the experience that led him to start the company. Together, we will cover the numerous initial challenges of building a private observation satellite company and a new generation of infrared sensors. Anthony will share what they learned from those early days and how, without even having a satellite in space, they were able to raise millions from investors by showing initial imagery their sensor gathered in special planes over London. Then we go deeper into the potential that data collected from space can have for the public and private sector in fighting climate crisis. Finally, Anthony will share the next steps necessary in achieving their vision and how you can get involved. During the second part of the talk, Anthony will give his secret sauce for early stage founders looking to fundraise by relating his own long and bumpy journey with SatelliteVu. Finally, he will share his own work-life balance tips for busy founders. Anthony, welcome to the show. Hi Anthony, welcome to the Tech for Climate podcast. We are super happy and excited to have you here again for a new episode of our Founder Series. So before we start, can you give us a 30-second intro about SatelliteVu?
Great, thanks for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be speaking. So SatelliteVu is going to launch a unique set of satellites with a camera that can detect the heat emissions from any building in the planet. So we can effectively find out where in the world we're wasting all the energy. We can direct people that want to reach net zero where to start first.
Let's start from the top. Can you tell us a bit more about your personal story and background? You mentioned that you're a space geek. You're passionate about everything related to space. But besides work and being a successful founder, I mean, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self? I mean, we always like in this show to learn a bit more about the guest and the guest speaker, and really to understand who is Anthony.
Well, Anthony is a space geek, and I think the difference is I've learned a lot of experience. Lots of things have gone right and wrong, and from that, I want to pass on to the people that I work with, but also give opportunity to everybody. So my children are a little bit older, so they're in their 20s, and I look at them. And I think, they're going to inherit the world that we leave them. And I could carry on with my career and be a satellite engineer, or I can go and create a company that can make a difference to the world. It can make a difference to the people that work here, and it can make a difference to the people that inherit the world afterwards. And so, that's basically what I've done is I've created a company where, I mean, most of the people that work for me are around half my age. They're the youngsters. I'm the leader that's helping them create the business, but they're the ones who are implementing it. And I think everyone who joins the company feels that they're making a difference in this climate challenge that we have. So far we've been really successful.
So during this whole journey in the satellite industry, I mean, what are the different, maybe if you can share with us a couple of experience that you learned along the way that if you were not exposed to those different experiences, you probably would not have launched SatelliteVu?
So I think the experience is, everyone says space is tough. Well, it is, but doesn't mean you don't do it. You don't carry on climbing that mountain and getting up there as a team successfully. It's that perseverance is really important. Understanding the problem, understanding the solutions, making mistakes, recovering from them professionally. These experiences allow you to persist, whereas maybe if you're a little bit younger, a little bit naive, you might find them devastating. Although you might have less to lose personally when you're younger, so you can take more risks in that respect. But it's about taking measured risks and making the best of any particular situation.
So you mentioned prior to that in the talk that your children are older now, and you could have the opportunity to basically keep working in the satellite industry instead of being a founder and trying to solve this humongous problem, or at least contributing to the solving the climate change problem that we are. But do you see, or do you have any moment that we call more the aha moment in a way that you could recall that defined this moment where you decided, in fact, I need to take action with my background, my education, my vision of the world. I can really start to do something different, or is it just a serial, I would say, succession of events that pushed you into this direction?
No, I think when you're working for particularly large companies, you should take time to review where your career is going. And I remember a couple of points in my career thinking, all right, am I going to be this satellite engineer, or am I going to switch to some other maybe larger industry, or change a course into management or something like that? And so I think you have to reflect on the pros and cons of that. at each stage. So I think my aha moment for SatelliteVu was basically going alone, because I've always helped companies scale up. So I've never been at that very birth moment. So taking the leap that you're gonna start it, you're gonna lead it, and day one is quite often you're by yourself, and so that's the challenge. And you got to believe not only in yourself, but also that you can solve a problem that's worth solving, and that in the realms of possibility, the technology or your solution can solve that problem. So when those three things come together, the self, you understand the problem, and you think there's a solution, that's aha. So yeah, I think I felt I could do this because I had good long experience. The challenge was immense. How can we help people have better insights into climate? And then the solution, yeah, it took some delving around to find what was affordable and meaningful, and what customers might want, what they might find useful. So that sort of gelled, and then you go, yeah, this is possible. Let's go and build the team and do it.
That's exciting. So before we go into the what I call the space for climate industry or landscape today, can you give us an overview on the how satellite and imagery and everything that we can get from space can give us an edge in the fight of climate change? I mean, what are the application and outcomes that we can expect that we maybe already have today or will have in the future, and who is interested by that?
Yeah, so I think space is already helping with climate. They helped with some of the models that was used in the recent COP26. So the scientific satellites from NASA and ESA and others around the world are measuring characteristics of the atmosphere and surface temperature, but typically on a planetary scale at a low resolution is what they need to do climate prediction models. At a higher resolution, there are observations, particularly in optical and the radar, synthetic aperture radar, which are available today, which can help with certain modeling, obviously modeling of deforestation, glaciers retreating and things like that. So all this can be done today. I think where space is going to help out in the future is on the greenhouse gases, either their production or indicators that lead to more or less of those gases. So there's already one satellite system up there now that detects methane. I think methane is a big problem, and some work was done at COP26 to address that. But energy efficiency is called by the International Energy Authority as the first fuel for combating climate change, and this is their words. And what they mean by that is you can make much more effect by saving energy than you can make more effect on the carbon budget by saving energy than you can by some special applications. Methane's a great one. It's very powerful very powerful gas for carbon equivalent. So it's something we definitely need to get rid of. But the majority of the causes are from industrial sites, from refineries, etc. And so those entities, we know we can find them, we can regulate them, we can make them fix it. They have the money to do it. But energy efficiency in the home or something, it's quite expensive. It's nebulous. We don't know quite where to look. It's quite expensive on an individual basis to fix this. So it's a much harder thing to solve. But if you do solve it, you obviously reduce the amount of carbon, and you reduce the amount of energy in total that we need to generate. So we don't have the mitigation like building more solar plants or building more wind farms will not have to be to such a large extent if we can use what we have better in the first place. So, that's very much the argument. So what can space do about that? Our particular application, if we can use our infrared camera to just find out which buildings are the worst, we see ourselves as thermometer of the world. We can find the bad buildings, the sick buildings, direct people to go and fix those, increase the energy efficiency, and that saving can be used for other purposes. And so we don't have to build more solar panels, etc.
So before we go too much into detail about your solution and the way how it works and in a way which problem exactly you are addressing, I'd like to take a little bit a zoom out here and really try to understand with you this space for climate industry landscape today. I mean, how is it evolving? And is it slowing down, blocked, or there's a lot of investment capital poured into the industry? I mean, we understand the extreme value to collect all of those data in terms of modeling and in terms of understanding, in your case, where we can be more efficient. But what needs to happen to have enough of those satellites deployed and really contribute to effectively reach the needs, the net zero goal of 2050? Do we need hundreds of them, or we need few bunch of them like yours? Do we need more actors like you, or is it the market and the industry is already in a way mature enough to really contribute fully?
So from a space hardware point of view, I think where we are today is there's space agency sensors up there, NASA, ESA, JAXA, India have sensors. Almost all the larger countries, the spacefaring nations, have sensors up there, but it tends to be at a lower resolution. The revisit's not that high. It's generally free data, so that's a good thing. But there's the application to modern day living cities. That at the individual level is quite low. So there are higher resolution systems, but they tend to be defense related. So there's a big gap for commercial applications. And that's been filled somewhat by experimental satellites, these CubeSats the size of shoeboxes. Universities and startup companies can afford to launch those. They don't cost too much money. And it's a good place to start with a new instrument. And there's lots of inroads into that. Even in infrared, where we're looking, there's some lower resolution systems. But they're still looking mainly at large features. And so that gives you some fidelity in applications around agriculture or forests or oceanic type landscapes, but not really at the sharp end of which building or which company is producing the worst effects. And I think that's the level we need, information we need to get there. So, I think we're helping out with that solution. I think there are other people building more and more high resolution systems in optics, in optical bands, etc. And so, that's coming along, and you'll see more of that. Do we need hundreds of satellites? I don't really count the number of satellites. It's the level of the service. People need to know how to model the world. You need to know how it's going every hour. So, every couple of hours, you need to see day and night, how's this performing? So maybe you can create a digital model of a city or a building, and try to look at some prediction about, climate adaptation models and all sorts of other things that you might be interested in. So from a satellite hardware point of view, yeah, there might be, tens, low hundreds of these devices required at some stage. as the appetite grows. But that's getting there is that you're only halfway up the mountain. The real challenge is getting that data into a meaningful format that the customers want, and so that analytics and insights generation is where typically Earth observation has failed. And we can, I think with the free data from some of the science missions, Copernicus, etc., people are developing data sets, but you still need to be a specialist to understand them. It's not where the real end user, the layman, the normal businessman would, not in a format that they require. And so this is the challenge. And so most of the people we're hiring are not satellite gut people. We've actually outsourced almost all of the satellite construction, monitoring, design to others. And where we're trying to build our expertise is in the analytics and making that relevant to the climate challenge.
So let's go a little bit deeper into the company and itself. You can tell us a little bit like the story of the origin of the company, and how did your team and yourself put together the first prototype. And I understand you're more on the software side and the analytics side than the hardware side, but it sounds that to go to that software side, as the data were not captured properly or at the level that you are looking for, you had to go through that phase of, in a way, building and putting, I think for 2022, the first satellites up there. So tell us a bit more about the initial story of it.
Yeah, so I think once we've identified that infrared was an application that hadn't really been served, it's really a new category of Earth observation, and no one was operating that space besides the space agencies. And talking to a lot of potential customers that this was useful and there was demand for it, and unsatisfied demand. So that spurred us on to looking at a technical solution. Typically, there's two ways of looking at this. You go and talk to a sensor manufacturer. They might have something which is, was a military asset, because the military always seem to have a lot of innovation in these fields of new sensors. But it might be classified. You might have struggling to declassify that. It costs a lot of money to develop, and so they want to pass that cost down to you. You might not be able to export that data or that instrument. I mean, there's all sorts of problems in trying to go from a government program to a low-cost commercial program. Or the other route, which is you take a commercial off-the-shelf camera, something that's works on an aeroplane or in some other ground-based sensor, and you go, right, what do I need to do to this camera to make it reliable enough to work in space? And so that's the choice we took, is to, and I think a lot of the new space companies, that's the approach they take. So you need to be prepared to fail, and you need to be prepared that you might have to change a lot of the electronics and the construction of that instrument to be able to survive the launch and the operations in space over a period. And we're looking for a 5-year lifetime of our satellites. But so we found the right company that could do this for us. We did a survey of all the instruments around the world to make a short list. So that's how we made the down selection on the hardware, and then from there, a satellite takes a couple of years. Well, our sort of satellite takes a couple of years to build and design, but we can't wait that long. We want to show our customers data now, so when the satellites launch, they're already ready to use the data set. And because it's a new data set, it's intriguing when you first see it. It's amazing what insight you can just see visually. And so they need to be able to integrate this into a form of then, the existing data analysis that they have inside their companies or to products. So we wanted to give them a sample data set today, which they could play with, optimize, and understand. So we put a copy of the camera on a plane and flew it up and down. So we're collecting, live data of plane. Even this week, we got the plane in the sky, collecting data of different features. And we're selling this as a product now, as a proof of concept that people can look at the features they want. We can help them format it into a format that is useful to them, maybe overlaying other data sets, fusing information, and extracting data, insights from that. So that's the way to get ahead, is to make it useful as soon as possible in some sort of format. Maybe starting with mock-ups, but then quickly moving to proofs of concepts and a minimum viable product.
And that's interesting. I really love the way how you've been approaching the problem in terms of we're putting that camera and already getting this initial imagery, not from space but from the sky, which is basically the same, and definitely helped you to convince your initial client and investor, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. I mean, it gives you obviously confidence internally that if what you're producing somebody likes, so that attracts more customers, and investors like both of those proof points. But there are challenges to that approach too. I mean, there's a very good reason why people aren't doing it with planes already. It's very expensive. It takes the cameras are quite heavy. You're dedicating a plane, a pilot. You need, I'm looking out the window now. The weather this week has not been brilliant. Then you want to fly over London, there's all sorts of restrictions about where and when you can fly over. So there are very good reasons why people aren't doing plane at the moment. And that's the same case for a drone. A drone might be good for one building, but you can't get the volume of data. You can't get the repeats, every couple of hours revisiting a site, which we will be from our constellation. So in a way, the difficulty we're facing now is even more of a proof point that can't wait till a satellite arrives, because life's going to be so much easier.
That's exciting. And speaking about the hardware and those cameras, how different are they from the one that were available in the market? What was the process for you to really change them and make them to the level that was required to get those initial image? And do you think that you reach that level now, or putting them to space will require a bunch of extra development around that?
So what's required is you completely tear down a camera down to its fundamental parts, down to the detector itself, and all the electronics in every part needs to be upgraded so that it can survive the environment in space. Then you build up the lenses and everything, and they have to be such that they can be aligned and survive the launched experience, which is a lot of vibration, etc. There. Then when you're in space, you've got one side of the satellite's minus whatever 200 degrees, and the other side's very warm. So this all affects the optics. So it's not a trivial exercise. You can do it with a CubeSat, and it either works or it doesn't. But when you start and go into the larger optics, these thermal effects are huge and magnified, and so you need experience in that. So yeah, it looks nothing like the commercial off-the-shelf camera. It's just that's a good place to start. But it's just a more cost-efficient way than downgrading, an existing government-type system and then trying to make the business case out of that.
So are you planning to put your own production line in the future? How far are you from that right now? Are you still really like prototyping, or you really like start to feel that now you have something that you could in a way scale or replicate in the future?
So we've been building this thing over a year. The camera's been built over a year. Also, all the development's done. We're still another year away from launch and bringing it into service. So I think all the design work's done. We've got a copy of the camera on the plane. So we've learned a lot of lessons about the optics and this detector there, and the reliability of the electronics on Earth anyway. So yeah, there's been so from that point of view, the technical risk has been hugely retired, and we're very confident it's going to work, first time, and it's going to work, for 5 years. So this is not really experimental payload. This is the production payload. It's going to work, and we're going to sell data from that. So you need to be very confident and work with people that know what they're doing and done it before. We were not going to build this in our garage or in our lab. This type of satellite was never going to be that case. We don't really have the option to fail. It would be an expensive and time-consuming exercise if we do. Obviously, we have failure contingency plans, but that's not our prime plan at the moment. So yeah, things are well under production now, and we're looking forward to the first launch.
Fantastic. So tell us a bit more about the data and the way how you because you have been mentioning prior in the interview that really the access of data, like a lot of data in the space industry in general is existing, but the access and the way how you can utilize that for like regular business people in a way, or even like government representatives is very very difficult. So how do you, if you can walk us through maybe a little bit about like this in a way platform, like how is the online product working for your potential future customers? Like how easy is the UX, and what are the data that you can provide to them?
So everything's going to be virtualized. So we were part of AWS Accelerator. We were one of the first companies on their space accelerator. And so from that, we learned how to, put everything in the cloud, putting everything, virtualizing every part we can is hugely important in efficiency and scalability. So that's coming along nicely. I think the customer experience will be that you can order online or through a UX or through an API. So that's on the roadmap. And we would like to sell subscriptions, so people commit to a certain number of credits and they can buy down on those. So both sides have a surety that they can buy the information, and we got surety that we have customers who are going to buy it as well. So I think that's really the business model, to make things as easy as possible for the end user.
So that's a good segue maybe for my next question in terms of like the economics of SatelliteVu. You mentioned this business model is definitely sounds like subscription, at least for part of it. Are you thinking of like different or business model as well, or is just like that one is the main one? And then on the cost side, I mean, how are the economics in terms of like building and maintaining and launching this payload to space? With the business model, you think that the margin are promising, or how long is it going to take you to in a way reach that comfortable margin to say, okay, the business now is like not living out of I would say investors' money, but really we have something that can keep growing.
Yeah, so we got some unique things about the about the business model. The let me think. We've got some the business model is unique in that the satellites are fairly expensive, but we'll be selling. A scene is 16 square kilometers, and we're looking at the sort of £300, €400, $500 per scene. So, and in each scene, there's sort of tens of thousands of buildings. So, if you're interested in certain buildings, the cost per building is pretty low. And we collect data in two ways, as you say. One on a tasking basis, so we can point the camera at the user's command at whatever they want, and they have to pay a price for that scene and probably a premium for that dedication. But in the background, we're collecting images of cities, and we think thermal maps of cities have many uses, and so we'll get multiple sales of the same data. And so that's how we can keep the costs down, and yet the revenue's high. So in generality, I think we hope to break even after the first year on the cost of the satellite. And so from there, the business model works very well. As we move forward in time, the percentage of analytics will increase on the revenue share compared with the raw imagery, because we see that certain analytics will, is where the holy grail is for us, and where we're going to, this company will change from being a space company because it has to, because no one else has that sensor, to an analytics company that will own and dominate in certain sectors.
So, if I understand well, and please confirm that to me, but your first satellite will be launched in 2022. That's the plan. So, in between then, what keeps you up at night? What needs to happen to be able to have this smooth launch and start to produce?
I think from the launch stage, I've got a lot of experience managing satellite programs. Admittedly, most of them for much larger satellites, communication satellites, with hundreds of millions of dollars. But I know how to get the best out of satellite manufacturers, and that launch process, insurance, the ground system. For me, yeah, it's difficult. Space is difficult, but I've got a lot of experience in getting, making that work, recovering from failures, keeping things on track and on budget. So yeah, it's difficult, but it's manageable. So we will achieve that, and achieve a successful launch at some point. But what are we doing in between? And what keeps me awake is I want the output of that satellite, the data, to be the best it can be for the customers, so that they want to buy it and they want to buy lots of it. And so it has to be really relevant. And that's the difficult thing. It's a new category of data. It's clearly relevant to climate change and mitigation, but it's making that obvious and sufficient value add to the end user that they come and buy it. And so this is the bit we're really exploring over the next year or so, is to not just have it on a platform, come and get it, but you need this to make your business better. You need this to hit your climate goals. You need this to be a good actor in your city. So these are the things we're exploring, and we're doing this by speaking to different sectors of the community, whether it's buildings owners, building investors, pollution, industrial complexes. So we're talking to all these verticals to find out what it would take for them to buy our data, and what do we need to do to present it in a right format. And maybe that's with other partners, or maybe we can bring that in-house, and we have to that skill set. But so when we launch, it's not just the data; it's a compelling product.
That's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to ask you a little bit about, like, you probably heard yesterday about this massive panic in the ISS space station. All of this debris flying around that was supposedly coming from a Russian satellite that got exploded. So how do you see yourself with adding more satellites into space and increasing this risk of debris? Do you see that there is, like, the tech is evolving in terms of, like, how can we minimize that, or do you see that's a necessary risk that we need to go through in a way to combat and fight climate change down there with services like yours?
Yeah, no, I think it's something that the whole industry needs to embrace and be aware of. We have a responsibility not on Earth but in space, and we put stuff up there, so we should be responsible for the stuff we put up there. And in fact, to help Earth, because we believe our data is going to help Earth, we need to be responsible actors and keep space clean so that we can still launch successful missions. So yeah, it is a massive concern for everybody when anyone litters the orbit, almost any orbit with space debris. It's something else to avoid, something else to adds to the risk. And even now, I'm sure the likelihood of a collision is very low. The stakes are huge, though. So that's a concern. Probabilities might be low, but the implications are massive. So we need to, take this problem very, very seriously. So I think with our constellation, we designed it. These are not CubeSats. We're not building them in our garage. They are professional pieces of equipment. There is, for example, I think our satellite's 160 kilos. It's about 1 meter cubed. It's got propulsion on board. We can quickly move our satellite out of the way of a potential collision. Other satellites don't have that capability. We are in an orbit which is not quite as busy as everybody else. We're trying to pick an orbit, and we can change that orbit during the lifetime of the satellite in case things change. So we could steer around the space station. When we come to retire, we'll have onboard fuel to be able to get past their orbit in a responsible way. So one, it's built by professionals. It's hugely reliable. Two, we have onboard fuel so we can maneuver around things. Three, we'll have fuel so that we can deorbit quickly. And so we think we're taking, and four, we only have a few satellites. It's only 7 in the initial constellation. So, I think we're being very, very responsible in that respect. And we want governments, the industry to, embrace similar practices and pick up the litter after they left and make sure that they design the systems for resilience. And so, we would encourage all players and regulators to help us out with this.
Thank you. Especially when you see like Starlink and others from Elon Musk, like those enormous constellations that going to space. It's true that it's definitely something that I think government and the private sector will need to take care of. Otherwise, we're gonna, that's basically moving a problem from Earth to space. It becomes more complicated. But let's go back a little bit for this last question of this part. We all know about COP26 that just closed now. The mitigate agreement that they finally had. But what is your personal opinion regarding the climate crisis? I mean, what would you tell to people who are afraid of all of those terrible news and already visible consequences of climate change? I mean, as I always say, are we doomed, or what would you tell them?
I don't think we're doomed. I think we can we have the technology to, or we can develop the technology to combat this. I think, as you can see from the results of COP26, it takes a lot more effort and a lot more money than people are willing to commit at the moment. But we will have to bite that bullet at some point and try and put the brakes on. It's going to be difficult. So we also need to, and we will not be completely successful. And so we need to adapt as well. We need to adapt our lifestyles so that they're, very, very low carbon. We need to adapt our infrastructure so that it can survive the weather changes. We need to adapt so we look after those people, those most vulnerable people that can't help themselves. Otherwise, there will be mass migration, and those people who have adapted, they can't build a fortress around themselves and try to keep everybody else out. So it's you can't be an island here. You have to work collaboratively, and I think COP did as far as it could achieve some of that. Some of the goals were increased. Deforestation, the methane, something on carbon pricing was agreed. Clearly, it's not enough. But we have, as President Obama said, we've got to be in for the long haul and don't give up fighting. And from my side, we won't give up innovating. Let's come up with better technical solutions. I think the great thing, one of the challenges we have as all of us is when we purchase something, we don't know the carbon impacts. So we just moved we're just moving offices, and we don't know the carbon impact of the new office, and they didn't know what it was, and so there's no data around. So you, as an individual or a company, it's very hard to make even choices, even if you have the will to make a good choice. Whereas if you're on a calorie diet and you want to lose some weight, you go into the supermarket, you pick up a can of soup, and it tells you exactly how many calories you're absorbing. So if the globe needs to go on a carbon diet, it's very hard to do so without this data. So I think companies like ours who can say this structure or this company has a certain footprint based on its thermal emissions, I think that will help inform people to make better choices. So I think everything that technology is achieving, whether you're bringing information that holds out the facts bare and accountable to individuals, or whether you're coming up with a carbon capture solution that sucks the carbon out of the atmosphere and disposes of it or locks it up responsibly. I think there's so much more to be done on a technical basis, which is super exciting. And it's good that technology is everybody's relying on that, maybe over relying on it a little bit to get us out of this situation. But I think it's a great challenge for everybody, young and old, to make this happen. And it's a perilous place to be, but it's very exciting at the same time that we can make a difference, and we can, as humanity, solve this problem if we all work together.
Yeah, and I think more than can, we have to. That's the first time where we don't have any choice on that one. So how can the community of investors, founders, experts around the world who are listening today can help you?
Can help us? So I think internally we're looking for smart people to join us to help us, to develop our road plan, our roadmap, and implement that, and to reach so our product reaches the whole market. So there's lots to be done internally. I think investors, I think we've convinced them to date that we've got a sustainable business for sustainable causes, and so we're in the right time at the right place the right price point, product fits the market. So I think from that perspective, it's going well. I would like to work faster. I'd like to do more. I would need more money. So next year we will be raising the next round, and if there's like-minded investors out there, then connect with us, and we'll try and get you in part of the round. So yeah, it's do more, do it quicker, do it better, make something that people want to buy, and does the job.
That's super exciting. So any question that I did not ask you, then I should have for this part of the show?
Okay. No, I think your line of questioning was very, very good. No, I think I think you captured it, just about everything there. So I can't. What else would I? No, I think so. I think the one thing is, what can governments do perhaps for us? So we've been fortunate in that we've received some grants from the UK Space Agency and the European Space Agency, which have helped. Investors appreciate non-dilutive equity. It's good that entities like European Space Agency vet our product. They understand the space technology, and if they say it's worth investing in, that's a real tick in the box for us. So we like that credibility that they give us. But I think because it's a new data set, there's challenges in the market from consumers. So I think where government can help is they know they need a thermal map of every city. So many people would buy that. So many people would use it. Not just the local councils, the government themselves could help identify their own buildings which might need upgrading. It could be used by individuals to find out how they're faring on a comparative basis or absolute basis. And so we would like governments to, have a PPP relationship, a private-public partnership, whereby, they would help purchase some of our data. We would try and provide some analytics to make it meaningful. And so that really get the ball rolling. And if we could do that in a few countries, in a few cities, I think it would really demonstrate and accelerate the applications of infrared technology to the masses. And that's something we're looking forward to in talking to government entities, is to try and get this data out there, and so that people can learn more about its benefits.
That's a great call to action. So anyone out there who knows has access to any governmental representative, please join and in contact Anthony, and probably they can help you to accelerate that. So thank you so much, Anthony, for your time and your incredible insights on the industry. I'm so excited to see so many brilliant people like you putting so much effort to move the ball forward towards a better and cleaner world. So thank you so much.
Hi, it's Guillaume again. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. As I said, do not hesitate to share an episode with a friend. Also, if you value the work we do for the climate tech ecosystem, here is how you can contribute to it. Today, I'm asking for your support and a donation or sponsorship to make the work of our self-funded team more viable. Even a small contribution means a lot to us. In any case, I will invite you to subscribe to our channels and visit our website startupbasecamp.org to discover more episodes like this one, and get your membership to access all our members' exclusive content. So remember, all of this is possible because of your support and donation. And we want you to be part of this collective movement against climate change. Let's keep in touch, and I hope you will enjoy our next show with us.